Welcome to JMW's Inside Man YouTube channel. My guest is Lucy Marlow. Lucy is a senior associate solicitor within JMW's intellectual property team. A dispute has arisen around Team USA. What's happened, Lucy?
So this case is all about an EU trademark opposition for the mark Team USA that was filed by the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee. And the mark that was filed concerned a range of merchandise and souvenir goods, not sporting goods, like sporting equipment, but things like beer mugs and pins and sports bags. Now, the EU IPO originally refused this mark as it was deemed to not comply with one of the absolute requirements for a trademark under Article 7 of the EU trademark regulation. The EU IPO deemed the mark to be devoid of distinctiveness, and what that meant was that the mark was not capable of functioning as a trademark because relevant consumers would not perceive the mark Team USA to indicate commercial origin of those particular goods. And the EU IPO relied upon various different dictionary definitions for Team and USA in order to support that finding. But ultimately, what was interesting about this case was the decision was appealed, and it went up to the Fourth Board of Appeal, and the lower court's decision was overturned, and the Team USA application was actually granted, and it was deemed to be capable of having distinctive character and therefore distinguishing the goods of one undertaking from another. And it's quite interesting because within this decision, it was noted that historically certain marks had not been allowed by the EU IPO, such as marks like Team Scotland. However, there's been quite an inconsistent rulings in the past where actually some of the marks have been allowed, such as USA Rugby. So the great thing about this decision is that there is more clarity on the law regarding distinctive marks and marks that include the word team and maybe some geographical indication like the USA, for example.
And we always call ourselves Team JMW, so I'll have a separate with you about that, Lucy. But on a serious note, how does that apply to normal, ordinary businesses?
So, I mean, this judgment is music to the ears of teams and sporting organisations. Doesn't necessarily have to be sporting, but, a lot of organisations, sports clubs, sports teams that may have been reluctant in the past to apply for a trademark that includes the word teams. Now they can rely upon this decision when moving forward with any trademark registrations.
And how can you and the intellectual property team at JMW help businesses who want to register a trademark, perhaps if they're having difficulty with it?
Sure. So whenever a client comes to us looking to register a trademark, we'll firstly do an assessment of the brand that they're proposing to use. So we'll consider things like absolute grounds of refusal, whether or not the mark is distinctive and capable of acting as a trademark, whether or not it's too generic or descriptive. If it's a sporting organisation or a team or a trademark including the word team, we'll obviously consider this particular decision, and it's very encouraging that if you do want to go for a trademark that includes the word team, we should hopefully be able to rely upon this decision and bolster any application that's made. And so we can advise the client at the outset on the risk of applying for that trademark and whether or not it's likely to be successful, and then guide them through the whole application process. We advise clients on international trademark portfolios, and we don't just look at what this talk is about, which is the absolute grounds of refusal. But we'll also advise as to whether or not there are any earlier marks on the register that could present a problem for a trademark application in the future, and whether even if that mark could also, that those earlier marks could present an infringement risk, so that you launch your brand, knowing the risks at the outset, so you have a much stronger footing moving forward with your brand.
Thanks very much. And if you'd like to contact Lucy and the intellectual property team here at JMW Solicitors, you can email insideman@jmw.co.uk or call 0161 82 81 999. Please also subscribe to the JMW Inside Man YouTube channel for the latest legal news, hints and tips. I'm Dominic Walker, JMW's Inside Man.